All right, it's that time of the morning to take a look at the stories in the papers. The dailies across Nigeria, freshly pressed, is what you are listening to on the Smooth Breakfast here on Smooth 98.1, where we look at stories, we get analysis, and of course, your thoughts and contributions play a big part in what we do here. You are most welcome. Ayokunmi here with you. An interesting morning is on the horizon. Fortunately, no rains this morning to get everywhere all wet and dreary, but the weather is cool, so I will not complain for that at all, at all, at all. It's going to be WhatsApp, it's going to be YouTube for you to join us this morning for the final freshly pressed of the week. It's 12 12 25. So make of that what you will for those who like to play around with numbers. Hey, I just thought to put that out there for you. Talking about numbers, the WhatsApp number, it's 0911 999 0981. 0911 999 0981. That's the WhatsApp number. Leave your comments there as concise as possible, please. That helps me to read them without any lapses whatsoever. Also, leave the comments on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Just leave your comments there as well. I'll get to them in due time. All right. It's a Friday and it's a full house. So joining me to take a look at the stories this morning, two of the finest gentlemen you will ever meet, AB Bozimo and of course Joseph Obari as well. AB, very, very, very good morning to you. Welcome into the show.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Joseph. And good morning to all of the wonderful listeners. It's a privilege to be here today. And I just want to say thank you to all who celebrated my dad on his birthday a couple of weeks ago. Sadly, we lost him about a week later.
Uh, our thoughts are with you and the family, AB. And the fact that you're able to even be here with us this morning, I know, it's something that you love to do, and it'll take your mind off to a degree. Let's hope we can make the best of that this morning. Joseph, good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Ayo, Ibi. My condolences, and we pray to the Lord's strength to the family and all that love the grand gentleman. He's come, he's fulfilled his role, and he's gone. So we give thanks to God. Listeners, you're all welcome to the show. It's another Friday. Let's make it really interesting.
Yes, indeed. Let's make it really interesting. Hey, there's always one thing or the other for us to get through. And this morning is no different at all. AB, let us start with oil. Yes, crude oil. And this one is coming from the Vanguard, where it says that the United States Coast Guard, in collaboration with the US Navy, has intercepted a Nigerian-owned super tanker, Skipper, over allegations of crude oil theft, piracy, and other transnational crimes. The vessel, which is a 20-year-old very large crude carrier, is reportedly owned and managed by Nigerian-based Tomaro's Global Ventures Limited, although its registered owner is listed as Triton Navigation Corp., headquartered in the Marshall Islands. Now, authorities said the tanker was illegally flying the Guyanese flag at the time of the arrest. And beyond suspicion of stolen crude, the vessel is also being investigated for allegedly transporting a large consignment of hard drugs and operating within a network backed by suspected Iranian and other Islamist-linked money laundering financiers. And there's a check with the Corporate Affairs Commission that we just showed that the company Tomaros is actually inactive. This is not the kind of thing that we want to be hearing about, AB. I mean, this definitely shows if this is how it panned out to, it shows weakness in our port state control regime, no doubt about that.
First of all, talk about Trump being on our necks, because this operation was announced by President Donald Trump. We already have quote unquote wahala with him here on our soil. We now go to his hemisphere, or not we, a ship allegedly registered or owned by a Nigerian, registered or flying what appears to be a false identity of Guyanese flag, is now found allegedly carrying stolen crude and drugs. I mean, what kind of combination of bad circumstances Could this be the only thing that is not on that ship are some bandits? If not, it would have been a complete trifecta. Everything would have been complete in this story. So they said it was seized. They said it's supposed to be carrying stolen crude. So that now brings us back. A, where was this crude stolen from? Is it Nigeria? How on earth was, and then this is supposed to be a VLCC, very large crude carrier. Who on earth knew that a Nigerian owned a VLCC? I don't know enough, but I didn't know that we were amongst those who are supposed to own them. And then the people or the persons who are supposed to have the company that owns this are unregistered. I don't know about you. If I owned a VLCC, I doubt that my company would fail to exist. So our regulatory environment seems to be extremely porous, apart from our coastal borders in terms of the ability for a ship, not a phone. You know, in my pocket, I might have a phone. You, Ayo, will not know I have the phone in my pocket. In my pocket, I might have a flash drive. I can slip by you. A very, the reason why that contraction is VLCC is that it's a very large crude carrier. For it to be able to slip into, presumably into our coast, or load enough oil and slip out, I don't believe it's just a matter of porous borders. This goes back to my suspicion that there is some form of collusion. It's the same kind of collusion that makes me believe it's impossible for 300 motorcycles, fully fueled, to go through places, pick up kidnapped victims, and pass through without collusion. So we have more than just it's an oil theft problem. We have a collusion problem. As it stands, there are people who benefit from this. And that is why this story has real merits. The US has seized the ship. I don't know to what extent the Nigerian authorities are now going to start investigating and trying to isolate the bad eggs, because guess what? It is not all Nigerians who benefit from this. It is certainly not all Nigerians who are involved in this. And last of all, it is 0 to 2 or 5 Nigerians who benefit from it. So it must be possible to isolate the 5 to 50 people who are directly involved with this. If we can't do that, then honestly, we can't do anything, or we don't want to do anything. And so this story is just unfolding. Various people who are in charge of NIMASA and all that are saying, look, at this moment, they don't yet have enough information to make informed opinions. I understand that everybody wants, but just on a side note, 90 said that Nigeria lost about 3.3 billion with a B dollars with an olas barrels. That's naira,
The
dollars
worth of
of crude.
the worth of the crude
Of
lost.
So think of what that amount would do in bolstering up things like our energy sector or our healthcare or even other infrastructure. And last of all, think of what that kind of amount would do to reduce the amount of money we seem to keep borrowing. On a final note, every time they talk about 90 is also very popular. We're talking about how we're losing billions and trillions to gas flaring. I have a question. Yeah, and every time they talk about, oh, to stop the gas flaring would take X amount of millions of dollars. Fine. So, and we always hear we don't have that money. So here's the question. With the money we have, what are we doing that is benefiting Nigerians? I talk about Nigerians as a collective, not the 30,000 top dogs in Nigeria.
Right,
Because honestly,
right.
the people who are benefiting from Nigeria right now are not up to 30,000. All those in the presidency, the ministers, the governors, and their lackeys, they're not up to 30,000 people out of 240 odd million. So that's just it. 90 has said that we should stop flaring gas. 90 is saying that we have lost $3.3 million. Think of what the opportunity cost of that money would have done in other sectors to make ordinary Nigerians better.
Joseph, it's actually very interesting because I saw a report earlier on this morning. I've been trying to look for it actually, where NNPC had been talking about boosting crude oil production to about two point, I can't remember the number exactly, point something million
barrels per day.
barrels per day and all that. Now, with stories like this coming out, looking at the fact that this is a very large, crude um, container, as it were,
Yeah.
are we going to get to that particular point where our output is what we want it to be? Hearing stories like this.
It's disheartening. Although some significant progress has been made in terms of containment of illegal activities in our oil and gas industry, but the truth is that it has not been eradicated. And this story is simply a pointer to the depth of rot in that sector. For so long, in fact, there has been a parallel in the oil industry, black market industry of Nigerian crude being sold. And I won't be surprised if at the end of the day, this vessel is actually carrying crude stolen from Nigeria. And it just adds to the number of volume we are losing every day. There was a report, it quoted 13 million barrels. That's no small amount of crude oil to be stolen.
At all.
So, and that's drain on the revenue because that's what we could sell and make more money. But there exist some syndicates that are actually involved in this, and it involves there's obviously foreign collaboration. Because some of when I was in the industry, it was obvious the form of the kind of welding that take place. When you look at them, you will know that it's not just any person, criminal in the Niger Delta who can undertake that. Underwater welding is a very sophisticated, very skilled, work that requires underwater divers who can weld underwater and all that. So, and these things are there. My company, then we had photographs, we had images that will alarm you. In fact, there were situations where there was a particular situation where a vessel as big as this caught fire while stealing crude.
Oh, wow.
Killing everybody on board. It exploded, yeah. And just there, we had the images. I still have the pictures till today. So many things. I thought if you see such a vessel, you'll be shocked. And just off the Bonny River, So a lot of things are going on, a lot of things. The efforts being made to contain oil theft, involvement of private security companies and working with the military has reduced the volume. But this kind of story just tells you, that points us to the fact that it still goes on. It still goes on. So unless we are serious and we are able to, because if you have a company like that registered, it's not difficult for you to actually unveil the ownership. You can lift the veil and find out who registered that company, you CSC. It is just that for the media that's making the inquiry, their basic research, they will not be able to to uncover that. But when it becomes necessary to unveil a company, lift the corporate veil of a company to know who is behind it, it is possible. And if government really wants to know who registered that company, they will. This very morning they can do that. So it's not a mystery at all. And you will know, you will have, because requirements for the registration of the company includes address of the operator, the directors, their telephone numbers and all that. So it's not a hidden thing. It's there in the records of the CSC. So if the government really wants to do something at a time, just like Ibi said, when a powerful nation as the United States is querying your security architecture, and then there is such a big breach of their own security, there's bound to be a consequence for such actions, because it just defines your capacity to be able to hold your fort.
All
as
right.
far as security is concerned in your own country. So it's not a good picture at all.
Talking about security and, of course, things happening and moves being made. Well, let's talk about the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, SAN. He's been talking. This story is coming out of the Guardian newspaper. He said that the federal government secured 860 terrorism-related convictions between 2017 and 2025. Now, he made the disclosure during a follow-up meeting with a visiting United States congressional delegation in Abuja. Now, he emphasized that the Federal Ministry of Justice had continued to play a critical role in ensuring fair and credible prosecution of terror suspects. Well, Nigerians will look at that number and say, who are these terror suspects that were actually convicted? And are you just playing to the gallery, sir? Because it doesn't feel like there have been any high-profile convictions that have been made. But he has been dropping the numbers. Joseph.
Ayo, you took the words out of my mouth because we haven't felt that anything significant was being done in the fight against terrorism in this country. I mean, it took the UAE to release the names of those who are financing terrorism in Nigeria. And for so long, in fact, when the people were arrested, there was clamor that they should be repatriated to Nigeria. In fact, the Nigerian government was one speaking on behalf of those who were arrested. In fact, they were asking UAE to release those people who were arrested, who eventually were convicted. That was the irony of it. Now, eventually, the UAE gave us more information about how these were linked to terror financing, and we could not do anything. Even when people were arrested, they were left off the hook. And then you come up just because there is pressure coming from the United States, our minister now has all of a sudden has figures to show to give to us. Why was it difficult for him to share such a monumental work that has been done in terms of fight of terrorism over these years? Why is it that you and I, Ayo, who are involved in this kind of activity of analyzing, we are hearing this as something very strange? How is it that it took the pressure from the United States for us to even have then release the list of those who are involved in terrorism? Yeah, there have been lists that floated sometime, but nobody knew what was happening to them. We cannot continue to, just as you say, we are playing to this is playing to the gallery. Yeah, it may be actually true that there had been convictions, but how did you manage that information that gives impression to people that, oh, the government is actually working on this and doing something? You cannot be doing, making effort to solve a problem and then you keep quiet over it. If it is not intended to be a cover to be able to let some people off the hook so easily. It is when there is such silence and blanket darkness that we don't know what is going on. So it's possible that even some people who are arrested are let off the hook. As we know, prominent persons who are involved in terrorism have been left to go. So it's good if it is true that we actually have secured conviction over this period of time. But
Right.
like you said, we are not feeling the impact of this on the fight against terrorism, because terror has gripped this country. In fact, it's trotting this country, is walking on two legs all across the country like a colossus, and causing us real panic and fear. So if it is that bad, then what are we saying? We need to feel that something has happened and that everybody who is involved in terror financing, involvement in actual terrorism is held accountable. And like Abi would say, eliminate those that should be eliminated, not kid glove treatment of terrorism. Even some of the people who are speaking in support of terrorism boldly, why is action not taken against them? People who feel that kidnapping is a lesser evil than killing people openly. What's being done about that? So until you get people to understand that what they are saying matters and you're ready to deal with it, they can continue to act in a way that does not support all the narrative about dealing with terrorism.
All right, thank you for sharing those thoughts, Joseph. Let me take a few messages here before I come back to you, AB. A number of thoughts have actually come in on the stories this morning. This one is from Lekon, I believe. It says a VLCC, that's a very large crude carrier tanker, typically carries 200,000 to 320,000 deadweight tons, which translates to roughly 2 million barrels of crude oil, making them crucial for long-haul, high-volume oil transport. 2 million barrels is equivalent to 1,033 petroleum trucks. Such vessels would have loaded from a very large export facility. A vessel of that size cannot enter Nigerian waters without clearance from the Nigerian customs. Well, AB, I mean, you did talk about the size of the phone and the size of the vehicle. I mean, a phone, hey, you can walk by me. A flash drive, I beg your pardon. So that is a very, very large, body. So questions, and more questions. Tony Nikeja says, good morning, gentlemen. The news regarding the very large crude carrier, one can understand why these extremely corrupt people are fighting against good governance. They'll spend anything to use propaganda and lies to fight those who want to rescue this country. If the crude oil is not from Nigeria, where else will it come from? Angola or Ghana? That large crude consignment has definitely become a birthday gift to Mr. Trump. He won't release it or its proceeds to Nigeria. Well, Trump has been pressing the necks, and I might be inclined to agree with you on that one. Oluwaseyi says, good morning, everyone. The thing sweet my belly say, catch that VLCC. Because some criminals who are enabled by corrupt Nigerian army, naval, police personnel, state actors, and government officials probably own that, I can bet. The chances this isn't the case is slim. It's just like it's an open secret that gold is illegally mined in the north and terrorists come through so-called porous borders, despite moving in very large groups and should be easy to pick off. So is the theft of crude oil in the south and the people who enable them. The whole country is mostly a crime scene. Hey, you just wonder. You just wonder. All right, Avi, let us talk about this recent incident concerning Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and a plane. Well, the Daily Post is where the story is being picked from. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, says the Nigerian soldiers who were on the aircraft that made a forced landing in Burkina Faso are still trapped in that country. Now, Tugar made this disclosure during a press briefing with his Benin counterpart, Olusegun Bakari, on Thursday at the ECOWAS Commission in Abuja. This particular incident, it just seems to be yo-yoing because we had stories that the soldiers in question, they had been released and all that, but we didn't know whether or not the plane itself had been released. And now Tugar is saying they're still in the country.
I think one of the most interesting parts of this, first of all, let's ascertain that when a plane is in distress, it is proper, responsible, and indeed legal for it to be allowed to land at the nearest plausible port. And that is the right thing that was done. And we're happy because we do not want the loss of a plane, or worse, the loss of human beings and soldiers in this case. So on that, I think there is nobody who has a question. That was the right thing to do. You do not want a plane to crash. What's most interesting about this story is that Tugar is having this conversation side by side with his Beninois counterparts. I'm just curious, was it just that the Beninois counterpart happened to just be strolling through Abuja, Nigeria, and he said, come, I won't go up to press, follow me? Because this is ostensibly a Nigerian plane, having a situation in what's the name, Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
What concerns the Beninois foreign ministry? You see, people are saying there might have been some involvement of that plane with the whole military operation Benin. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm ground based. I don't have any broomstick, so I wasn't up in the air. The question is, what does the Beninois foreign minister have to do with a conversation about a Nigerian plane in Burkina Faso airspace. It's just curious, and it adds yet another layer of confusion to the story. On the surface of it, we averted a plane crash and the death of soldiers. It landed. We could have the whole conversation of them suspecting us to be hostile and us saying we're just on a flight taking the plane for maintenance. These are two perspectives that we could argue endlessly. But when you now have the Beninois foreign minister, I'm just asking myself, it adds a layer that makes it look more suspicious from the Nigerian side. But where we are is in the middle of these various narratives, and at some point, the possibilities that we might know the truth, and there's another possibility that this will be forever shrouded under the guise of security. You can say a plane can normally you file a flight path when you are going somewhere. You don't just fly into other countries' airspace without authorization. That's not how it's done. So I'll just stop here and say there is more to this story that apparently meets the eye, and all does not appear to be as straightforward as the two sides will be. But what was our Beninois counterpart doing during this particular briefing with our own foreign minister? I'm curious.
Yeah, so let me just help with the context from the media perspective. So what the briefing, I guess, is in relation to the Nigeria's involvement with the foiled coup in Benin Republic, because it was said that the Beninois president really didn't appreciate Nigeria for what Nigeria did when he said thank you to various people that helped. So I think the Beninois actually needed to clarify that, and they had that press conference at the ECOWAS commission here in Abuja, and our own minister happened to be there. Now, what happens usually at press conference is that so most of the time is that even after the actual topic has been addressed, journalists are now able to ask questions. And since the foreign minister was there, they will normally ask him a question on a topical issue such as this. So you must have just have answered that question, not that they may have addressed that specifically as the major reason why they're there. So I guess that could be a possible context for that. But besides saying that, I think that the breakaway countries of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are actually making mountain out of a molehill as far as this matter is concerned. It is an opportunity for them to flex their muscles and show their anger against Nigeria, who has been the leader of ECOWAS and all that. So it's a muzzle flexing thing. It's not that they don't know what the aviation law requires. It's not as if we might have violated any airspace as they are alleging. It's just a political game that they are playing. But I think that Nigeria is deliberately deciding to handle this matter diplomatically. Otherwise, we can call the bluff of these guys, and actually it could lead to some kind of escalation, which is what they are looking for, some kind of confrontation with Nigeria in some form. But Nigeria, at some point, if they are not yielding, Nigeria should begin to talk tough. And I think that we should show that we are confident about what we are doing. Unless perhaps there are, like a bit hinted, there are other motives that have driven this whole episode of what has happened that we don't know, and which the government knows and is not willing to talk about. Because if you're acting right, you should be able to come out and say, look, this is what our Air Force has come out to say, we are doing the right thing. We're simply going to somewhere else, and we had to do emergency landing. And in aviation, you cannot fault that at all. Right. You cannot fault it, even where you don't have permission, normal permission to fly that. If there is emergency, of course, you can land when you ask to land. So you cannot land into an airport without clearing with the control tower at all. Air control, traffic control will clear you before you can land. So that, I think just politics is being played here, regional politics and all of that. But Nigeria at a point should be able to draw the line when they they can continue to take rubbish from these countries.
Alrighty, time to take your messages, man. So much has been said about the issues this morning. Ajayi Ololilua, let me take your message. Let me see if this thing is going to behave itself because it's been, okay, let me see here if it's going to allow me to take the message. All right, it says, good morning, Ayo, AB, and of course, Joseph. Good morning to you. Again, President Donald Trump is coming to our rescue to unravel the age-long incessant case of stealing of our crude oil, as he has arrested a super tanker laden with stolen crude and even hard drugs on the high seas. After nodding up our government from its slumber on the issue of insecurity, looks like Trump is God sent to save Nigeria. I take all these things with a pinch of salt, really, because my stance is anyone who decides to get involved in another country's business, he puts himself first. My opinion. My opinion. We could have, whatever it is that we get at the end of the day is probably just like an offshoot at the end. But hey, let's see. Tayo just says all these findings in one investigation. Talk about a cocktail of criminality disguised as a business. We just came off the FATF gray list this year. I hope we don't go back by 2027. If America doesn't tweet or show interest, Nigeria won't sit up to its responsibility, which is sad in itself. Jerry, good morning, says, good morning all. The federal government secured judgment on terrorists. Hope it's not those ones that were kept at the Kuje House arrest. I don't know. I don't know how these men tell stories like these and will be angry with their children who tell lies. Now, wow. This is from Oluwaseyi, who says, let's be clear. Any country with the kind of frosty diplomatic relations we have with the Burkina Faso, the junta would detain that plane and the personnel would be interrogated. How long they will be held would be determined by the strength of both countries involved and how bad the relationship is. They will eventually be released. It is only a matter of how long they will be held. Joseph alluded to that also. This is Michael, who says, I never considered how 300 bikes are fueled by terrorists and bandits. How are they getting their fuel supplies? That is $1 million question. And then he says, the minister shared convictions done by the UAE. I can bet my Christmas outfit. I wouldn't place that bet, Michael. Christmas is not too far away. Just hold on to your clothing.
Lose the bet.
Okay, this is Rexy Surulere says the 55th ministerial session of ECOWAS just took place in Abuja. That's why you had the foreign minister and his Beninois counterparts holding a joint press conference. Joseph sort of alluded to that. Maybe that question came up while that was going on. And can I squeeze one more in here? This is from Leko in Lagos. Good morning, crew. For the massacre in Nasarawa State, it's unfortunate. This is a Christian-dominated state. Lekon, this is not on the menu for today. Can you speak to the issues that we talked about this morning? And don't take us to where it is that we are not going to or did not go to at all. Thank you. Stick to what we're talking about. Tony Marine Beach says, what is not yet clear to Nigerians in this C-130 story is whether the plane actually developed faults and had an emergency landing or probably jammed by the Burkina-based defense system on violating their airspace. While we know, however, that the Nigerian government would want to avoid a confrontation that may prove fatal for West Africa, I think the government of Nigeria may at one point take it frontally if our motives are actually right. That is the question. All right, Lekon has sent in a message. He says, morning crew, what causes coups is bad governance, bad elections, bad economic policies, taxes, insecurity, and so on. The case study being Mali, Niger Republic, Guinea, now number one, it's Benin Republic, and number two, that was foiled, so that is off the table. 3 countries went on coups, or 3 countries suffered coups under the watch of President Tinubu as ECOWAS chairman. He's deploying Air Force and Army to Benin Republic for eye service, but you can't deploy to defend and protect your own people because of election gains and so on and so forth. Lekon, all I will say is thank you very much for your message. All right, we need to wrap it up. Thank you also very much for all the messages and the interactions. Always a pleasure reading from you. You make everything even sweeter. Thank you so much to you, AB, and of course, Joseph, for making it a Friday to look back on. Thank you so much. AB.
Thank you. Like Lekon said, Nigeria proved me always right that our military is utterly and absolutely capable of taking on any kind of encounter. And so, like Lekon just reiterated and stressed, it has never made sense that terrorists seem to be running rings around us in Nigeria, unless there is, I repeat, collusion of people who benefit from and relish in the rivers of blood of Nigerian citizens. It's a sad testimony. We did well in the cool thing. We're preventing those alien countries from access to the ocean, because if they had that Benin Republic thing, they would not have a port and they could be unstoppable. So let us see that same. They said sometimes terrorists are attacking. I'm sorry to take the terrorists are attacking people for 48 hours, no response. But 15 seconds after a coup happens in Benin, we're there showing armaments. Listen, some people even say France was the real aggressor, but we were, whatever the case, we showed working. Nigerian military, like I have always known you, please show working against terrorists in Nigeria. God bless every listener. Thank you once again all for your very kind thoughts.
All right.
Joseph.
So, I say thank you to you, AB. It's always pleasures being here with you. Thanks, listeners, for your contributions, and I wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Stay safe wherever you are. Nigeria is a great nation, and I believe it will show that greatness eventually. Thank you very much. And
Thank you
God
so
bless.
very much. And amen, amen, and amen once again. Just very quickly, AB David on YouTube says, sorry for your loss. Stay strong and stay hopeful in the gift of the resurrection at God's own time. I had to get that one in as well.
Thank
All right,
you,
on
David.
that note, we wrap it up. Thank you all so much once again for keeping it tuned to Freshly Pressed on a Friday morning. This has been a very interesting one. My name is Ayokunmi 8:15. We'll get into the world of sports, taking a look at what's been going on throughout the week, and of course, looking forward to the weekend in the locker room. Don't go anywhere.